This is always like the most uncomfortable moment. Hi, I'm Carolyn Miller, and this is my speech, Unending Journey. What would you do with $30,000? Maybe you would buy a new TV, or buy a new car, or invest in the stock market if you're into that kind of thing. But the real question is, where did you get those $30,000? Or what do you value in human life? Or how much do you value human life? Non-governmental organizations reported that in Nepal, 10 to 15,000 girls were trafficked from Nepal into India for sex slavery last year alone. This is just over the border. Sex trafficking within the country is a matter in and of itself. Katie Orlinsky, a reporter for the New York Times, traveled to India and Nepal to see what was going on up close. She reported that girls were typically sold to brawlers for around $2,000. How would you feel if someone told you that you were worth $2,000 or less? Sex trafficking is a tragic issue that affects hundreds and thousands of peoples and family every year, just in Nepal. But despite the enormity of this issue, there are things that you and I, who are normal people, can do to help. To first understand how to help, we have to understand the victims, who the victims are, what happens to them, and the damage that is done. So first, our victims tend to be girls 7 to 24 years of age. This is reported by the Tiny Hands organization. But girls can also be as young as 4 or 5. Once these girls are sold into slavery primarily because of money issues. Their families will sometimes sell them because there are too many mouths to feed, and this is a way to relieve the financial burden. They're also lured into false marriages by someone they may have known for a few months or someone they may have known for a long time. They're also lured into India by promise of an education. The last way that girls are trafficked is by kidnapping. This happens to girls of any class and any economic class. They are just taken off the streets because they're at the wrong place at the wrong time. So, the sex trafficking has been made incredibly easy because of the very poor border patrol between India and Nepal. Officers are often bribed to turn a blind eye towards these issues. In addition to that, there is no passport or proof of residency or visas needed to travel between the two countries. And even if there's no bribing, traffickers will often disguise their victims as their own brides by having them wear special clothing and jewelry to get them across unquestioned. The government is aware of this issue. They publicly recognize that this is a big civil rights issue and that there are things that need to be done, but they are very unmotivated to enforce any action with the laws they've established. So once these girls reach the brothels, there is unimaginable damage done to them physically and mentally. As you can imagine, the physical abuse is huge. Often, as an initiation process, girls are gang raped and put in cages. Right after that, they are typically kept there and tortured and denied any access to food, water, and clothing as a way to break their mental processes and to make them accept their fate. If they try to run away or are still resistant, they will continue to torture them. As a result to the continual rapings, some up to 100 times a day, these girls contract many diseases. The Human Rights Watch says that once girls contract HIV and once the brothels find that out, they are kicked out onto the streets and left to fend for themselves. Often these girls cannot find alternate professions, so they have to resort to selling themselves outside of the brothel's help. The other way that girls are damaged is their emotional well-being. As you can imagine, their trust has been broken down because they're sold into slavery by someone they trust, whether it's family or who they thought was their fiancé and sometimes a distant relative. So they cannot trust anybody, and the fact that they are raped many times a day denies them their basic human rights. So the last way, that's the most long-lasting way that sex trafficking affects people is the generations that are affected afterwards. Many women have to seek unsafe abortions because their clients do not use, or most of them do not use any form of contraceptives. So if they don't seek an unsafe abortion, then they will have their own children. And Sunitha Krishnan tells a story. She herself is a gang rape victim, and she goes and rescues girls off the streets who have either escaped from the brothels or are doing or have their own method of selling themselves. But she tells the story of Pranitha, who at 4 years old was sold in sex slavery by her mother, who was a prostitute. In her mother's final stages of AIDS, she couldn't care for her daughter anymore, and so she was sold. Sunitha only got to her after she'd been raped 3 times, and this was just at the age of 4. So, amidst all this tragedy, there is hope. This is where Red Thread comes in. You may have heard of Red Thread, but maybe you didn't know very much about what they did or how they helped. So, what Red Thread does is they rescue. They go and they find these girls and take them in. After they take them in, they provide some sort of healing. They counsel them and kind of take them through a healing process to restore their self-esteem. And the last way that they help them is they teach these girls initially how to make bracelets, which I'm sure you all have seen, and I see some of you are wearing them. So they teach these girls how to make bracelets, and they are able to sell them so they can make money, and then eventually go on to either study another profession or make their own business. So, what are ways that you can do to help? You can donate money, that's the first way. You can also volunteer with them. Their base is not too far, it's downtown Abilene. And the last way is to, you can also sell the bracelets as a fundraiser for them. You can do this for service and for any service requirements that you need. And also, if you can also contact Brianna Jordan, who's the assistant director of Red Thread, to find out what you can do to help. So, in conclusion, these young girls, everything has been snatched away from them. Everything that's precious in life, and their innocence has been taken away. But as ACU students, we're given this special opportunity to directly help and influence these girls. That's the end.
What does she press on? That's really good.